Hello, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Hammercast. I'm your host, Alex, the Hebrew Hammer Salkin, and joining me once again is my friend and yours. I'm willing to share him, Tim Anderson, of none other than Original Strength, which, if you have heard me ever open my mouth at all, you have definitely heard of Original Strength by this point. Tim is a very prolific author. So every time I turn around, he's got a new book coming out, just completely blowing people's minds. And so I wanted to get him on the podcast today to talk about A Simple Book of Strength, which is his latest release, which was out on Tuesday of this past week, which would be April 2nd. I'm glad, by the way, it didn't come out on April 1st because nobody would have bought it. They'd have been like, this is an April
Right.
Fool's joke. I'm not even gonna bother. So yeah, very, very clever that you didn't do it on Monday.
That was deliberate. That was
Yes.
was deliberate.
Smart. Yeah, well, I knew that you were firing on all cylinders. You're like, there's just no way I'm gonna have to go back and try to convince people, no, it's real. This is not, not some big huge joke. But that gives me an idea for an April Fool's joke for next year. So be on the lookout. Before we get started chatting about this great new tome, I want to remind my listeners, if this is your first time listening, or maybe your 50th, and you've just been reticent to do anything I tell you, be sure to check out my 9-minute kettlebell and bodyweight challenge. I can't say for sure, but I would bet it would be Tim Anderson approved because it is based around your body's gait pattern and using these very simple movements that take maybe 30 seconds to learn. Stuff like crawling, loaded carries, and other full body gait pattern movements to get super strong, jacked, and of course, far more resilient. And all you got to do to get it, and it's free, by the way, just go to 9minutechallenge.com. You get your own free copy. And that is the number 9minutechallenge.com. Although I did buy NINE minutechallenge.com, nine, because somebody was a guest on somebody's podcast once. And I checked in the podcast notes after it went live, and he spelt 9-minute challenge like the actual word. Like nobody even
That was
why would you
thorough of
spell it?
him.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, all right, well, you know what? I gotta buy this so that I can redirect people in the correct direction. But otherwise, be lazy. Just type the number 9minutechallenge.com and you're good to go.
I would like to say I do have the 9 minute kettlebell challenge, and I do approve it. I like it. It's good stuff.
Nice. Tim gives it two thumbs up, not even pensively. He was very very sincere about that, which I like. I'm sure that for him, it's like super easy to do. He's got to make it more challenging by like dragging a car, when he's crawling or maybe lifting, you know, the back end of a pickup during the loaded carries portion.
I don't know, man. I like to keep things simple, so I'm good with 9 minutes.
Good. All right, perfect. Well, I can certainly live with that. I heard a story once. Danny was telling me that she once like looked over her shoulder and saw you just kind of casually bottoms up clean and press a 36 kilo kettlebell.
That was one time ago.
That's pretty awesome. Like 36 kilos bottoms up is pretty serious. Um, I only bring this up just because I've been doing a lot of bottoms up pressing myself and kind of like working through um the ins and outs of getting strong enough to do that. Like, did you ever train for that specifically?
No, it was just something that I wanted to see if I could do. Every now and then, I mean, really honestly, the only way to mess with kettlebells is bottoms up. But but no, I don't. It's nothing I like actually do for a workout or anything.
But you have to have a pretty decently strong grip in order to do that. So I'm guessing probably all the rope work you've done or any of the other crazy grip strength stuff has been a big help.
I think it's weird. I think my body has a good feeling for the balance of it. So
Uh-huh.
I don't even think it's my grip strength as much as it is. I can just have a feel for how that it's centered perfectly well.
Nice. And that band-aid on your hand has nothing to do with bottoms up anything, right?
That's construction or deconstruction,
Oh.
tearing down walls in our new studio. So there's
Oh,
an
great.
accident.
Are you guys moving to a new location?
We are, and there's walls that have to be taken down, and I forgot the safety requirements. So wear gloves and eye protection, stuff like that. I wanted to see if those things were real that you needed, and it turns out it's not a bad idea.
Spoiler alert, wear gloves.
Wear gloves.
Is this the place? I think Danny, last time I was in town, would have been like in 2022. And I think Danny was driving me somewhere and she said that we're looking at buying that
Oh
space over
no,
there. We want to, it's not a,
no,
is it
no,
a
no,
different
no.
place?
So, our current space that you're familiar with is 3,000 square foot.
Mhm.
This new space is 2 blocks down the street and it's 14,000 square foot.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a scooch bigger.
Wow.
So
Dang.
a lot of deconstruction walls.
You want to know the great part about that is that you're not going to have to interrupt classes at all because you're going
Nope.
to be like, all right, today's class, we're going to be moving equipment 2 blocks for the next hour. Your
That's right.
rest is walking back. So let's
It's
get to it.
it's heavy carry day.
Yeah, exactly. All the live long day. Actually, it reminds me of I don't know if I think a friend of mine kind of sparked the idea and it made me think like I wonder how far you could take this. It would be like yeah, it was this friend of mine Lee, he was like, people are really into like functional fitness. You could I don't remember exactly what his suggestion was, but it was ultimately like um what I spun it into was like you could have okay, let's say like morning, afternoon, and evening classes. And it would be so morning classes, like some trucks drop some huge rocks off, and then the morning class's job is to move all of these rocks, from the dump site to someplace else. Afternoon class, their job is to break them all into like smaller pieces. The evening class, their job is to shovel them into bags and then like, carry them elsewhere. And then at night, some other truck comes and picks them up. And it's like actually you're just selling gravel, but like you're saving money on the labor by having people who like this idea of doing hard labor stuff to get in shape. They're paying you. So you're not only not paying anybody, they're paying you and you get to sell the materials and you just do it ad infinitum.
It is crazy enough to work. Like I've learned just from tearing down the few walls that I did that I really don't need to work out if I just did that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It's true. I just a couple months ago, I was helping my brother. He's got a snow removal business in the wintertime. And I was kind of like, we'll say obligated to help him because he did a boatload of work on my car. And it would have cost me a pretty penny to have paid a mechanic to do it. But he's very handy. So he was able to work on it. And so we were doing some snow removal stuff, and it's like I didn't feel like I missed a workout that day. I felt like because it's like he would run the snow blower, and then I would shovel the walkways, and I helped him like 3 different times to do this just over the course of like a few weeks in January. And yeah, I mean it was like really tough.
Yeah,
It's not just doing it once; it's doing it 12 hours. Or in the case of one day we did it, we had to go like 22 and a half hours. Started
that's that's real work.
yeah, it sucked. We started like 3 in the afternoon. We didn't stop till like 1:30 the next day in the
Good night.
afternoon. It was but that's the kind of real world strength that I think people are missing out on. And your new book is the sort of a thing that tries to get people back in contact with what it means to actually be strong and not just strong within the walls of a gym, which is definitely cool and it's definitely good, but strong in the sense of like anywhere you end up, you can handle yourself. So tell us a little bit about what this book is, what it's all about and how it builds on your previous work.
So it is called a simple book of strength, and basically the premise is that we all in our bodies right now have more than enough strength than we ever need
Mm-hmm.
to live our lives however we want to. In fact, we all have what some people might consider superhuman strength inside of us right now. The issue is that hardly any of us have access to that strength. So the book is the goal of the book is to help you understand the strength that's inside of you, but also how to gain access to it so that you can live your life the way you want to. And then it goes further into like, and why do we need all this strength, right? Well, other than just living your life the way you want to, strength has a greater purpose too, to serve others, to help others.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't live your life the way you want to, and you can't really be useful to other people if you don't have access to what you've been given.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the thing that people forget about a lot of times is that what they've already got, it's kind of like it's maybe locked away, and they just need to figure out what the combination is to be
Right.
able to engage in the storehouse of strength that they've got already hidden inside them. And then from there you can cultivate even more so. But if you spend all day sitting and you just don't have the kind of we'll say rapport with your body that you really need in order to be able to demonstrate the kind of strength and power that is already built within you, you're going to feel like you're not enough, you don't have enough. It's maybe strength is for somebody else, but it's not for you. No, like what are some of the things, I would say it's pretty clear anybody who's followed you for a while is probably familiar with the original strength resets as they normally are. So what role do they play, let's say, in unleashing that strength that's already within you?
So they are, and I go into I go into the three pillars of the resets pretty deep in this book, but not necessarily the resets themselves,
Hmm.
but they are pivotal, or at least it's certainly foundational to gaining the strength or to gaining access to the strength that you're designed to have.
Yeah.
At a very bare minimum, engaging in your natural movement design gives your brain enough information that it's looking for to allow it to feel safe enough to allow your body to freely express itself. So in that sense, the three pillars or the resets, they are pivotal in giving the brain information that says, yes, I am safe. And when the brain feels safe, the response is, here's the output that you're looking for. I'm going to let you move. If the brain doesn't feel safe, it restricts people. There's through compensations, through tension, through weakness, through tightness, through whatever apprehension.
Hmm.
You get governed from your full expression when your brain does not feel safe enough to allow you to move.
Yeah. This is a really important concept in all sorts of different things. It's true with strength. It's also true with mobility and flexibility because a lot of people think I'm just inflexible. I've always been this way. This is just a way that I am. Um, oddly enough, as of the time of this conversation, I have been commissioned to teach a very brief lesson on the art of kicking people in the head at this martial arts school that I go to for boxing lessons like once a week. My coach saw me, you've seen those videos of people like there's like a little bag that swings by and use it for like head movement. There's one of those hanging above my head, and just for fun at the end of class, I just kicked it. And he's like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, how does a bumblebee fly? Like
Like
these are,
I took this foot and I put it right there.
yeah, exactly. It reminds me, Fabio Zone and our friend Fabio told a story about how when he was learning how to squat, intuitively he understood, you need to have a good technique. So he was asking his coach, like, so what are my feet supposed to do in the squat? Like, which way do they point? And this was when he was really young, and his coach was like, you put the bar on your back and you squat down and stand up. He's like, okay, but what direction should my knees be pointing? Should they move out? Should they be forward? And he's like, you put the bar on your back and you squat down and you stand up. And that's how I felt trying to explain it in one sentence to him. It was just very inadequate. But one of the big things that I'm going to be mentioning to these folks is exactly what you just said, is that your body is your brain is in charge of the body. And so you have to be able to convince it that what you want it to do is safe. And in order to do that, you have to provide some sort of like external feedback from something that you are doing that reminds it that, okay, you know what, actually, we haven't done this before, but this wasn't so bad. So it's okay to do this now. And then you just keep doing it. So for people in, let's say, the non-gym rat types, we talk to a lot of people, I think, who are really, really into fitness. They like being in the gym. But for people who are maybe just getting started, is this a good book for them to get started with? Or would you say a different one of your books would be something that people should consider first?
I mean, I think anybody can pick it up, plug and play. It is specifically for the person that doesn't want to live in a weight room.
Mm,
I mean, so it's not for a professional bodybuilder or a strongman or a pro CrossFitter.
yeah.
It's for the everyday person. Like it's the 99% of the people out there
Yeah.
that could benefit from this book.
And what are some of the things in particular that, and I'll say without giving too much away, because I want people to buy the book, I want them to read it and apply it. But like you mentioned, going deep into the three pillars of original strength. So, what are some ideas of some things that are, let's say, within the wheelhouse of those three pillars, but are not what we would ordinarily view as original strength resets that still fall into the basic, we'll say like the spirit of the law, as it were, for some of these rules that people are going to find in the book and be able to apply on their own.
Uh, I'll try. So typically, like if you want something, okay, so there's an economics to strength.
Hmm.
just like there is to, to money. You create a demand, and then there is a supply to meet your demand,
Hmm.
right? And so the way we can create a demand from our body to get what we want out of our body is we use it. And you might look at using your body like asking for something from your body. So if we show up enough and create a challenge, or honestly, and it doesn't have to be a big challenge, it can just be made through showing up, where the body says, you know what, Tim keeps doing this every single day. This is costing me a lot of energy. I want to make this easier for him so it doesn't cost me so much energy anymore.
Hmm.
So from the simple act of showing up, I have made an ask of my brain, my body, to make this easier. I'm going to keep doing this. You've heard of this before, use it or lose it. And that is actually a very good thing that the body runs off of, because that also means use it and build it.
Hmm.
So if you want something, you've heard this too, ask and you shall receive. So
Yeah.
if I want something for my body, I have to ask for it. So if I want more balance or more flexibility or more mobility, I have to ask for it. And the easiest way to ask for it is simply to move.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Most of us, though, we ask nothing because we sit around too much. We're too sedentary. And that is a non-ask, or it's asking to do nothing. Either way you want to look at it. If I'm asking to do nothing, my brain also says, I want Timmy keep showing up to asking, he's asking me to do nothing. So I want to
Yeah.
make that easier on him too. So let's get rid of all this extra stuff we don't need, like muscle, like tendon strength. What do we need it for? We're just filling up this chair. We don't need it at all. And that takes extra resources and energy. And I want to be efficient to honor Timmy's ask of doing nothing. So let's take all the stuff away that he doesn't need.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it like that because I was gonna say I this is something that people would do well to understand. You're training your body no matter what. You're either training it to be in this sort of fetal position all the live long day, or you're training it to be able to do all sorts of incredible things. I saw a video just recently. Mike Musselman, master instructor, sent me this video of these guys in their 80s and 90s at a track meet. And it was, did he send this to
He
you?
sent that to me. It was amazing.
I was blown away. I like the thing that really impressed me about that was that, you could tell when you were watching, like, okay, these people wouldn't beat an Olympic sprinter, but you're like, but this is pretty impressive for somebody in their 80s. But the thing actually that impressed me the most was when they were at the finish line and they were just kind of walking and talking and congratulating each other. Um, they their basic movement looked as though they were in their 30s. It didn't look like they were in their 80s or their 90s. So it's like, yeah, they don't have it's true to say that you get to a certain age at which, you're not going to peak at what you ever could have possibly done at your absolute prime and all that other stuff. But like leave that aside. They didn't move like they were in their 80s or their 90s. Like I never would have guessed they were. I would have guessed maybe their 50s because they had such natural, fluid, effortless movement that in addition to being able to do something as impressive as sprinting, they kept asking their body at even
Yes.
at these advanced ages of like there was a guy, I think it was Bill Williamson was his name, maybe I'll have to double check. 86 years old, and he was the one who won it. But there was another participant who I think was like 92. And they most people when they think about someone in 92, 86, whatever, they think about people who've asked their bodies, and I'm not blaming them per se, but this is just there's only actions and consequences in this life. They've sort of asked their bodies to make things easier on them by allowing them to sit, allowing them to, recline, do whatever. But these guys asked their bodies for more and they received more.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. Like, given their advanced rotations around the sun, they, even though they wouldn't beat an Olympic sprinter, they were scooting.
Yeah,
Like, they were moving down that track, which was just, it was beautiful.
it was incredible. And there is something to be said about the effect of the OS resets to do that for people. In a sense, they kind of were doing the resets because sprinting is like a really high order reset. It's like we might say like the peak reset. It's like the ultimate because that's what the body um in its I would say in its like idealized form is capable of is just sprinting using our natural moving quickly using our natural movement design, which for us
Yes.
means sprinting, right?
Right.
For a cheetah, it would look different, obviously, but the design of a cheetah is such that it's allowed to move at a speed like that, using its natural God-given design. And the same thing is true for us. But I remember even many years ago, my mom, I had her doing a lot of resets, and then I hadn't seen her for a couple of months. And then I saw her, it was like in the fall. Last time I had seen her was in the spring. And I noticed when she moved like 15 years younger because she was now asking her body, which had plenty of difficulties, plenty of, challenges, but asked her body for something different. And she got that something different. So in addition to those OS resets, there are another couple of like, let's say just body weight only exercises that you're a big fan of that really seem to help people toward that end, but they're also very gentle. Like, can you give listeners some idea of like some other, we'll say, go to Tim Anderson approved movements outside of the 9 minute challenge movements, which you've already given the two thumbs up on, but other movements that you really like and that have a good pedigree of providing people exactly what they're after?
Easiest low hanging fruit is a brisk walk, making sure that all four limbs are swinging together
Mhm.
rhythmically. I think that's the easiest thing to do, right?
Yeah.
No barrier to entry hardly. Um, Outside of that, like if I'm just occupying one spot of floor, I'm a huge fan of a form of body weight squats that some people call Hindu squats, some people call them other things. I'm a huge fan of push-ups, Hindu push-ups, or dans, or again, several different names. I like a hinging motion.
Mhm.
Imagine a kettlebell swing without a kettlebell, but being springy and bouncy at the bottom.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we want to ask our body for, like the sprinters, is to always keep our springs.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of sprinkling in quick elastic movements, especially as we age, because those are the things we do less and less and less of. But if we want to keep our youth, those are the things we need to keep asking our body for, right?
Definitely.
So I like a nice little bouncing hinge. Just bouncing off my hamstrings by shifting the weight over on my toes. And I mean you can, it just supercharges the glutes and the hamstrings, and it's nothing more than your body. Um, so things like that are just super simple to do, and they don't break you down. You can do them almost every day if you want to,
Yeah.
or you can do them exactly every day if you want to.
Exactly. Actually, it's interesting you mentioned this too. I like the term Hindu push-ups and Hindu squats because it's easy to remember. And I always get their Hindi names mixed up. There's Dans and then there's Baitaks, and I never know which one's which.
Sapate and yes.
Whatever you call it, exactly. There was a guy, he was the first Indian Mr. Universe. His name was oh dang, I'm drawing a blank and I don't know why. He was super famous. Um, but at any rate, he in his like late 30s worked up to a 600-pound back squat. But in his younger years, he was doing just tons and tons of Hindu squats, and he would do lots of lunges and push-ups and pull-ups but like very high reps. So even though he wasn't stacking weights onto a bar like what most people would view as being, the epitome of strength building, and certainly a very valid and excellent form of strength training, uh, that background that he had in those basic movements that you can do on a daily basis, stuff that you chronicle in your book, was what gave him the base to be able to create this incredibly high peak that
Yes.
he was able to use to just build some unreal levels of strength.
Well, yeah, and we talked about this before, but if you showed up every day and you only did 10 push-ups a day, you have essentially asked your body for 3,650 push-ups throughout the year. You're going to have a nervous system that feels very safe and comfortable allowing you to push. So if you needed more than the ability to do that 10, it's going to give it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the concept of the book Antifragile, which I'll admit I've only read a part of because it's very wordy, and frankly, I put it down. But the um, the concept is really brilliant, and it's exactly what you're talking about here, is that you end up getting more than what you ask for ultimately because your body is like, we're going to give you a little bit of extra in reserve. And so that's one of the great things about strength training is it's not just ask and ye shall receive, but ask and ye shall receive above and beyond what you would even ask for, And this is the way anybody who's done strength training would be familiar with this because you mostly train sub maximally. And then what do you get? Like you test yourself and you did more than you ever trained for. but it's the training that gave you that margin to be able to do that sort of a thing.
But you also get more than that. Like you get wholeness, right? So if you get stronger because you show up every day, there's another consequence that comes with that. And that consequence is often called confidence. And so now, if you're confident, your body knows, your brain knows that too. That's another message that says, I am safe. A
Yeah.
confident person is constantly reinforcing the message to their brain that I am safe. Whereas a nervous, anxious, or depressed person is constantly reinforcing the message that I am not safe.
Yeah.
Now, that message is taken, received, and then there's an appropriate output response that the brain will let you have from that message. So if you know you're strong, well, then you've actually increased your strength potential.
Big time. And you know what? Think about this too. When people are not confident or they're nervous, they're anxious, what do they look like? Like hunched
They're,
forward,
yes, they
shrugged
slouch, they
shoulders.
flex forward.
I think too that there's a parallel with people who sit all day. And again, we're not passing judgment, just pointing out that a lot of times it's the people who sit all day who feel this level of anxiety because they feel themselves getting weaker, but they're also putting themselves in this sort of this fetal position, pardon me, a fetal position or this sort of like startled, like unconfident position. It's almost like a reverse feedback loop. It's like their body is telling their brain what to think as opposed to the brain telling the body what to think. So doing the reverse, getting yourself to move and feel good about it and knowing that you have the capacity to do it's got to have a huge impact.
It does. And it is easier. Well, you're correct. One of the easiest ways to change how you think and how you feel is through movement,
Yeah.
which also means if you feel and think a certain way, it is greatly probably due to your movement or how you move or how you are not moving.
Yeah. This reminds me, somewhat funny. It wasn't funny at the time. I was a little bit miffed, but I briefly worked as a waiter at a high-end French restaurant in Jerusalem, and I didn't like the job. I needed it because I needed to pay my bills, and and of course if you're going to be a waiter at a restaurant like this, uh, they expect you to be, I think, carry a posture or a physique that's a little bit more servant-like and a little bit less, like Superman. So I remember one of the things they would have us do if it was like lunchtime, whatever, was stand outside. And, it's basically like a way of people walk by and then they see like, okay, there are people, the restaurant's open, whatever. So I was standing outside with my hands on my hips, like that Superman pose.
Power
And my
pose.
manager was like, "Hey, hold your hands behind your back. Don't put them in the Superman pose. It's a little bit like it's a little bit intimidating for people walking by." And I was like, "Man," and I'm sure I had some choice words that I can't repeat on the Hammercast because this is a PG, you know, podcast, um but even he understood, let's say from a completely different standpoint, the impact that your posture can have not just on yourself but even on other people. So if people see that you view yourself as confident and they see that you view yourself as capable and strong, it also changes the way that other people react to you. Now, in his opinion, it made it less likely people were going to come into the restaurant. I don't think that's true, but
I think his opinion was actually upside down a little bit on that.
yeah,
But
do you want somebody who's like cowering and just, whatever, or do you want somebody to be like, hey, this is a good place to eat. The people here are, cool, strong, confident, whatever, like, yeah, I think he was very upside down. But anyway, I thought that was a funny aside because um, the way you carry yourself does improve how you feel about yourself, but it also changes the way other people view you.
it does. And in a circular way, it can also improve the way you move in general as well.
Definitely. Well, give us some insights about that because to me, what comes to mind is your posture in general. And if your posture is good and your posture is strong, it's generally a pretty good indicator of how you move, how you feel. But can you just sort of hold yourself in a position where you have good posture and then expect good results in terms of your physical output?
This may surprise you, but I'm going to say yes, because how you move can instantly change the message to your brain, and can overcome negative thoughts or negative emotions. So, an easy example would be, let's say you're depressed or anxious, but you start rocking back and forth. Now that rocking motion soothes you, helps you regulate your emotion, helps you calm down. Or you're just irate, you're dealing with a lot of stress and you go take a walk and you feel so much better after you walk.
Hmm.
Those are examples of movements that can change how you feel and think, right? Well, if you're slouching and you're holding yourself that way, that can be like, say, a held movement,
Yeah.
so to speak. But so if you change your posture, now you've moved into a different position.
Hmm.
That's instant information to your brain. That too can change how you think and how you feel instantly,
Yeah.
at the speed of your nervous system. An easier low hanging fruit thing than that would be if you're frustrated or angry or sad or whatever, even if you don't mean it, if you smile, the movement of a smile changes the information going to your brain, and that can instantly have an impact on how you think and how you feel. And it can certainly have an impact on how your body moves during and after the smile.
Very interesting. The subtext to this that people may miss if they even so much as blink is that, the movement that we're talking about here is not the sort of a thing you need to drive 30 minutes out of your way to a gym in an industrial area and use this specialized equipment to do. This is how you can take simple movements that you can do in your office, at home, standing in line at a grocery store, and make a real impact on your life in general.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times people have this idea that it's really that's exercise that's going to help them move and feel better and all these other things. Or once they've achieved a certain level, like a number on a bar or on a kettlebell, or things of that nature. And that has an impact, but it's like if that only makes up an hour of your day, 3 days a week, and you have 165 hours of the week to do completely the opposite, you can end up a very fit but anxious and unhappy individual. There are a lot of other things that movement is supposed to do to enhance your life, and that's I think the message that people should get here is that it's the little things that you can do over and over and over again that start to stack up and ultimately have a much greater impact. It works the same way as exercise, but you don't need specialized equipment or, a particular time of day that you set aside to do these things. These are things you can do all the time.
And there are things you're designed to do all the time.
Yeah.
We are movement machines. Like we're designed to move. And that is what keeps our our body more free to express itself in all the ways we want it to be able to.
Yeah,
And that's what keeps us feeling good, because how you move is directly related to how you feel.
definitely.
Um, so yeah, and it's the absence of doing all that, like not doing the things we're designed to do, like being sedentary for more hours than we're moving, that again creates the ask to do nothing. That makes us not feel as good,
Yeah,
and not think as clearly and sharply as we could or want to.
definitely. This reminds me of a quote from Jordan Vazina. I'm sure you remember him from the years back. He was in the RKC. He used to have a ton of great videos on YouTube. Maybe they're still there. I haven't seen anything new from him in a while, but he said something like your body is made to stand and is able to sit. And I would expand that out even further and say your body's made to move and is able to be sedentary. So a lot of times we're doing something that we're capable of doing by just sitting around all the time. And we worry about, oh, am I going to overtrain if I add one more walk into my day, or if I do X, Y, Z? It's like, no, your body is supposed to be doing this stuff. Like every waking moment, there should be some movement. And even people sitting at their desk, they bounce their legs, they're moving around, they're shifting in their seat. Your body craves this movement. So if you give it what it craves, you're going to end up getting what the kind of body that you want to have anyway, which is a body that looks like it actually still moves and is not crumpled up into a ball.
Yeah, and like even sitting can be active. Like I'm sitting talking to you right now, but I'm sitting on a stool. So I'm not being held in a certain
Yeah.
position. I am determining the position that I sit in on the stool. Like I'm using my muscles.
Yeah.
So
What
it's
you
active.
mentioned, yeah, and you mentioned this even in the OS Pro manual is that, sitting is not bad. It's really just you can sit in a way that actually presses reset. You can sit in a way that's like you talked about sitting on a stool. You can't, it's not as easy to slouch. You can't lean back. You can't, do all this other stuff. You just get this natural movement that's built in, even when you are otherwise sitting still. Uh, I think it's a there's a huge lesson to be learned from that.
Have you heard the latest term for that natural movement that's built in?
What's that?
NEAT,
Oh
N
yeah, nah.
NEAT,
Yeah, not what is it?
non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
It is one of the highest ways that we burn calories, higher than exercise.
Yeah. I was
So, meaning
Go
if you
ahead.
go to work out in the gym for an hour, you're only going to burn so much calories. But if you fidget for the rest of the day, you'll burn way more calories than you did if you were in the gym for an hour.
I was talking to my dad about that the other day. As I was like, the majority of the calories our body burns is not from, exercise we do. It's from just your basal metabolic rate and then just the basic movements that you do throughout the day. And then you add in some exercise over a long enough period of time, and provided you can stick with it and you can recover from it, that's going to add on to it. But, in terms of a lot of people think about, getting in shape and all this other stuff. It's like if you tell them, yeah, just walk more often, they're like, no, I want something cool. I want to do a snatch test every day. It's like, you
Walking's
think you want
cool.
to do that. You think you want to do that.
Yeah,
Believe
you
me,
don't
you
want to do
don't.
that.
You really, really don't.
You know what?
Uh,
Doing that made me never want to do snatches again, is how that works out.
I I always tell people too, like I don't snatch until I have to recertify my snatch test, or when I have to
Until
re.
somebody makes me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
There was a
it's a great movement, but no thanks.
Yeah, it was a time when I used to do it for fun. That time is long, long gone.
Yes, I find different things fun now, like knitting, crochet.
Knitting's good. That's a great way to create up your neat activity level.
Absolutely, you're gonna end up with hands that look like they have like biceps in the fingers.
Finger biceps. It's the thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that that's the other thing is people very often in their training. I'm sure you see this a lot as a gym owner. You probably get people come in and they have these ideas about their training. But getting people to do the stuff that doesn't look cool on Instagram, like go for a walk, do some gardening, play with your kids, like do more physical activities just throughout the day without the intent of exercising, quote unquote, and make exercise a part of your movement, but make movement your overall goal. People are like, yeah, but I saw, my favorite fitfluencer doing XYZ or saying I need to take this and that supplement. And people want the shortcut. And ironically, the shortcut is like the crappiest way to go about any of this stuff.
It it may not even be that they want the shortcut. They're just programmed to believe that the shortcut might be the solution.
The
You
shortcut is
know,
the way. Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're flooded with all kinds of information all day long, we're easy to program. I mean, and if you see somebody that looks like they know what they're doing or they have any type of authority, that's an easy way to get programmed. And not that that's a bad thing, but that's just we all get programmed from something.
Some of it's good, like
Yeah,
at a red light, everybody stops.
we should
No,
stop.
nobody in this town runs the red light because it's a socially unacceptable, illegal thing. So, yeah, exactly. You're like, I think if you were to see a lot of people run a certain, even just like one specific stop sign or one specific stoplight in town, you'd be like, okay, why not? I'll do it. Other people are doing it. But if you notice nobody else does it, nobody wants to be like, the first person to do that. So nobody wants to be the one in their friends group who's like, yeah, I just decided to get in better shape by, walking a little more, doing some body weight exercises, doing X, Y, and Z. They want to be talking about the awful workout they did that completely gave them rhabdomyolysis and,
They
you
want to
know,
hurt.
yeah, people want to hurt. It's crazy.
It is.
I don't get it. I mean, there are a lot of ways to hurt people, but exercise is not one of them. Shouldn't be.
No, and so part of the what I talk about in the book is strength is actually born through struggle. Like things should be a challenge, but they should be doable challenges.
Yeah.
You can flirt with being uncomfortable until being uncomfortable is no longer uncomfortable until you get comfortable doing it. But that doesn't mean you have to hurt or
Yeah.
it has to be impossible to do because getting injured from training is not going to improve the quality of your life.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? People love to. I think it's mostly in the younger ages. As people get older, they understandably fear it a little bit more, but they still think that they've got to do these crazy hard workouts in order to get on the other end of, whatever the goal that it is that they have. And even when people achieve a certain goal by training modestly and moderately and consistently, it's like they almost can't believe it. They're like, well, it couldn't possibly. Lightning's not going to strike twice. I better go back to crushing myself in the gym or whatever.
Well, we have short memories. I think that's what happens.
We do. But you know what? Actually, I'm sure you'll attest to this. This is one of the reasons why I like original strength so much is that in addition to, for me myself, it also for a lot of my students, they have that mentality. They're like I want to get stronger, I want to move better, so on and so forth. But I also want to feel like I really got in a hard workout. Like I want to just push myself. So it's like, okay, crawl for 10 minutes, you know? As soon as you put your knees down, timer stops. As soon as you get back up, timer starts again. And they can do that and they actually and it ends up better for them because they get that their heart pumping and their lungs jumping, their body is moving the way that it's supposed to. They got that nice burn in their muscles, but they wake up the next day and they're not like a complete mess. They feel better. They move better.
They're not trashed for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you have any challenges like that in the new book where it's like, hey, if you want to push yourself, try this?
Yeah, I've actually I think there's 4 or 5 training routines in the book. And you could run all the way like a beginner would obviously they could start at the very first one.
Mhm.
And work your way through if you wanted to. But yeah, but small little challenges and there are some timed events, to work on and things. And especially one I've got the pick two crawl or carry.
Mm,
So you do 2 exercises for a certain amount of time, and then you crawl or carry, you choose for a certain amount of time also.
nice. Yeah, stuff like that is great because in addition to giving people what they want, it's also still abiding by this idea of using your body the way that it's made to be moved, through the gait pattern specifically. And it's just crazy how much stronger people get when they just pick something up, walk with it for a while, put it down, or get down on all fours, crawl for a bit, rest as necessary, and just repeat.
It's a simple ask or an easy ask to
Yeah,
have to be stronger is what that is.
exactly. Exactly. Where can people get this book?
This book is available at your favorite bookstore, wherever you like to buy books. Amazon's easy, but you could probably get it from Target.com or Barnes and Noble or wherever, even Walmart, wherever you want to
Very
buy your
nice.
book from.
Very nice. I recommend people get it because, as with all of Tim's books, uh, it is easy to digest. You don't have to learn a bunch of new terms. There's no jargon and, we'll say trainer speak. It's
I,
very straightforward.
I will tell you, this is probably my favorite book.
Folks, if Tim says that he likes something, you got to believe it's going to be pretty good. Um, so if this is his favorite book, you can rest assured there's a good reason for that. And like every book of yours I've ever read, I've always really enjoyed. Again, I find that it's very engaging. It's hard to stop turning the pages. So I highly recommend this. A simple book of strength available now at all fine book resellers as well as Amazon, which of course sells more than just books, but it's still a very fine place to get all sorts of different things. Any final words for our dear audience before we? Oh, you're heading off to England with Dan John. Let's talk about that briefly.
Yep, going to England with Dan the man with 2 first names.
Yes, the only man with two first names that you can trust.
I can trust Dan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you guys are going to be, remind me where. I know you're going to be with the health oddity guys.
Yep, unique results in England, and then we're going to Denmark
Oh,
to
really?
be with all. Yeah, so it's going to be a neat trip.
Who's in Denmark?
Uh, Ollie, can't think of his last name right now. I don't know if I could
Is he a
because I
Danish
can't
guy?
pronounce it. What?
He's a Danish guy?
From Denmark?
Interesting.
Is that
it.
Danish?
I've never heard a Dane
I'm
named
getting
Ollie.
culture.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I've
getting
heard.
cultured right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm way behind. All the people I know named Oliver are mostly like English people, or I know an Irish guy named Ollie. So I'm enchanted. I'm intrigued that there's a Dane named Ollie. That's exciting. And this is Copenhagen, I presume, or is it somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay, that's exciting, man. That's very
Hey,
exciting.
listen, man, you're asking me questions outside of Fuquay Arena. I don't like, I only know Raleigh area.
This reminds me of did you ever see the Dukes of Hazzard
Of
with
course I did.
yeah, but not the original. I mean the one with Sean William Scott and
I've,
Johnny Knoxville.
the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was a disappointment, but yeah, I know what you're talking
Okay. Uh, there was this great scene right at the beginning where it was what's his name? Willie Nelson plays Jesse, I think is the uncle,
Uncle
right?
Jesse.
Yeah, and he's like, now Uncle Jesse had only been two places, Hazard County and Korea. And so it sounds like like
That's
one
kind of
very
like me.
specific spot in the South and all over the world, but
Well,
only
Piquet-Verena, North Carolina, and Australia. It's the weirdest thing.
yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
explain it.
I it actually it is very funny. I think no matter and if you're an American, you go to Australia, about the only two places people expect you to be from are like New York or LA. Anywhere else you mention, they're just like mind blown. Because I was there recently and I'd meet people like, so where are you from? And I'd say Omaha, Nebraska. And they were like, it was like watching, like they're just watching their
They're like,
minds
is that a
explode.
place?
Some of them actually knew they didn't know where it was, but they knew of it. They had heard of it.
Really?
This is really remarkable, but a lot of places I go, people have heard of Omaha, Nebraska for some reason. And I think, I always tell them, okay, Warren Buffett lives here. They're like, okay, that's probably why. But Fuquay-Varina, that's an even bigger, like what's there,
That one scares people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they don't know what to think. But then they're like, okay, we know Tim's from there, so it can't be a terribly, scary
Can't be that
place when
bad.
you yeah, exactly. Exactly. So very cool. Yeah, I can't wait to hear all about your travels with Dan and getting to hang out in England and going to Denmark and enjoying their I've never been to Denmark apart
Me
from the
either.
that's going to be exciting, I'm sure. I've heard nothing but great stuff about the various Scandinavian countries. I've only ever been in the airport in Copenhagen and then Oslo, but even that was pretty exciting. It was like they were nice airports. So I can only imagine that the rest of the country is pretty cool too.
I'm excited.
Keep us posted. Keep us in
I
the
will.
loop.
I will.
And folks, go grab a simple book of strength. That is an order. And now it's time for you to put in your order. Go to Amazon, go pick it up. It's going to be great. Tim, thank you very much for being here again.
Alex, thank you so much for having me, man. This has been fun.
Pleasure is all mine. And folks, as always, have fun and happy training.